up in a Christian home, went to church pretty regularly, and even in college went on a missions trip, and thought everything was pretty real for me. As we were leaving the missions trip, they were kind of preparing us to go back, and they said 1 in 3 of you will fall. And I honestly remember looking around the room and being like, oh yeah, it's Craig. Craig is gonna be the guy. And it was me. I met a guy, and I was asked him if he was a Christian and whatnot, and he kind of alluded to, wanting to live by the Christian ways. And so I kind of thought, I wasn't mature, so I didn't really understand where he was. So we started dating, and we argued a lot about Christianity and what it all was. And I eventually tried to go find some answers between feeling kind of arrogant to where I could point my finger at somebody and say they're not going to make it. When I started to reflect on that, I didn't want whatever was making me be able to say those things to people. I didn't want it. I didn't want it in my life. And so I decided to go atheist. Had to kind of train myself to stop thinking about God and stop hearing God, and figure out how to really manage things on my own. Even when I'd hear God's voice or something would come up and I would normally pray to God, I had to kind of just say, no, you don't do that anymore. You don't believe, and so you need to handle it on your own. And so 16 years of I would say pretty ugly atheism. I wasn't arrogant anymore towards non-Christians or people who I was judging. I was still in a way judging people if they were Christian. I just remember a couple of times just being really mean towards God, like just blatantly like making fun of him, like you would bully somebody else. I felt pretty on top of the world as far as my career was going really well. Got nominated for Teacher of the Year. I still felt like I was waking up every day of my life trying to be the best I could be. I didn't have much of a relationship with my family, and I pulled further and further away from my parents. So 16 years we were together. Our relationship was kind of going downhill. Even though I was away from God those 16 years, he used the entire experience to bring me to a point that when it was supposed to be over, I just knew there was no other way around it. Like that was the end. I basically told him that was my sign to leave. Since January of this year, we broke up. It was a very muddy breakup, and I was still atheist, and I was pretty determined to stay atheist because I knew everybody in the family would be pushing. And it wasn't until like 3 days after we broke up that I had 2 friends, my sister being one, basically say, "Shan, I think he is an addict." All the things that didn't make sense fell into place. My sister has dealt with addiction in her life and addiction in other people's life, and so it was so crazy to not have this relationship with her for 10 years and then to have us slowly be brought back together. Everything she was saying was either tied to understanding addiction or tied to God. And so everything just kind of started to fit together, which is crazy because 2 months later, she asked me to go to church. And before, I was like, no, that doesn't even make sense. I'm not going to church. I'm not going to church on Christmas because that's even sillier to go once a year. And it just felt right. And she was like, The Edge is this amazing church and it's so fun. And I cannot tell you what got me to go that Sunday. But it was just God clearly working on my heart. Before I knew it, I was going to church and just really loving it. Just loving that from the outside, parking my car, I could hear the beat of the music getting started, and knowing that the timer's going. I don't know why, but I just love that. You always have a friendly face to greet you at the door, and I don't know what it was, but when Pastor Ryan asked if you wanted to accept Jesus into your heart or let him take over your life, or however he worded it, I was sobbing and raising my hand and definitely ready. I wouldn't say things are necessarily easier. Like I don't feel like, my life is perfect now that I've accepted Christ. There's something different about it. There's something that just feels peaceful. It was kind of funny because I got involved in youth ministry and really loved it, and the kids are really great, and started kind of feeling that tug to get baptized. And just like everything before, like God just made it super clear, like, hey, they're talking about it and you're about to mark this box and get baptized. And it was just a complete new start, just a new relationship, and everything that I had done in the past, as far as like bad-mouthing God or bad-mouthing Christianity, I just felt like, even though I had apologized profusely like before, I felt like this was kind of God's way of saying, I forgive you, and you're starting fresh, and you're declaring your relationship. And it was really cool because I got to invite pretty much everybody who had been tag teaming me for the last, however long, was there cheering me on, and it was amazing. I love the Edge Church because I was a broken person who was accepted and loved and brought in and encouraged every step of the way to get to know and form a relationship with Jesus Christ.